this happen. So this is today's going to be my 9th day of trading in Italy on this trip. This will be my 3rd trip to Europe while where I came on the trip and day traded pretty much the whole time. And on my 2nd trip, I ended up having a big loss on the very first day of the trip. What happened was I got off the plane. I flew from JFK to Venice, Italy, and the flight got in at 8 in the morning, local time, Italian time. Got to the hotel, got settled in by noontime, and the market opens at 3:30 p.m. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna trade. Let's do it. And I think I overestimated my sort of mental state. The reality is, after a 7-8 hour flight and 3 hours on either side of traveling, you are not at peak performance. That is not the time that you go out on the court and play in the NBA finals. You got to be rested. You got to be well rested, well fed, in a good mental spot. And so I ended up jumping in the market, taking a loss, and pretty much immediately being down like $8,000. And that was the beginning of the last trip to Italy. You would think that I would learn from these mistakes. Sadly, I don't always learn from these mistakes. And so on this trip, on day 2, I ended up losing $14,000. And that's relative now to my accounts being bigger, trading with bigger size, being more aggressive. And it was not a good situation. So basically, what happened on that day, I think that it was sort of the typical thing that I do, which is I get my mind sort of set on trying to have a big win. And we had this setup. Sorry if the GoPro's a little squeaky here. We had this setup that, if I traded it back at home and I was on my home trading station, I probably would have taken the $10,000 of profit that I had and not tried to swing for the fences. But I just decided that I wanted to try to be a hero, go for a really big win. And what ended up happening was I went from being up $10,000 on the stock to down $10,000 on the stock. And by the time I pressed the sell button, I was locking up a $14,000 loser, which is just ridiculous. And I was at sort of the bottom of a red streak. I had been red the previous week, and I think I was trying to bounce back, in this sort of heroic fashion. We got a bus coming through. So I ended up just getting myself into a real pickle. And whatever, took the loss. Spent the rest of the week trying to just sort of mentally bounce back, and go back a little further, and put me in this position of just really being on the defensive. So this has happened to me several times where I've had red streaks, and I think in some ways, what defines a trader are our biggest wins and biggest losses. Those are the highs and lows of our career. My biggest winner was a day where I made over $40,000. Biggest loser right now is a day where I lost 30 grand. And I remember those days very clearly. Everything else is sort of the in-between stuff. but the $14,000 red day on the second day of the trip here put a little bit of a cloud on things. I just had this goal of trying to make, while I was on this trip, $25,000. You can see these fellas working on the side of the road. Average income in Italy is $26,000 US dollars per year. Which, when you think about it, it's not a lot of money at all. It's like $100 a day. So I set this goal that if I could make $25,000 during my trip here, that would be a pretty cool thing. And to prove and even inspire perhaps some local Italians that, hey, there's another option out there. You can trade the market side by side with me, the way Roberto does. And I can't remember what year he made $75,000. That was 3 times the average household income. That's awesome. And to do it in 1 hour a day, and not have to be out in the sun, working hard is pretty cool. So anyways, very beginning of the trip, I ended up taking this big loss. And so far this week, I've made about $10,000. So I'm digging my way out of the hole, and I made $7,000 last Thursday. So I'm back to, actually, I think I'm now green on the trip, which is good. But I've got a ways to go before I hit my $25,000 mental target. And this is sort of the thing about trading, is that you're not a trader until you've had a catastrophic loss that is shaking you, forced you to reevaluate everything you do. Oh my God, there's a cat in the road. Wow. So, it's going to happen to every single one of you who trade. You're going to have a day where you take a big loss, and it's a combination of things going a little bit wrong. You got a little too aggressive at the wrong time. You let FOMO get the best of you. You bought a stock at totally the wrong price. Whatever the case may be, it'll happen. And what's really going to define you is how you're able to recover from that red day. Not just financially, but in maybe even a more important way, emotionally. For me, when I had the biggest loss, the biggest red day of my trading career, I was only about 2.5, 3 years into my career, and I had a stretch where I was actually making money. I was doing well, and a lot of you guys have attended workshops I've done where I talk about how I had this turning point, and it was in August. And through the rest of the year, I was trading really well. But the following March, or April, I don't remember which month it was. I think it was March. I had a day where I took a couple of losses. I was down like, I don't know, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. Might have been close to $5,000. I had a red day, and at that point, I was below my max loss. I was, but I still sat in front of the computer. And at that time, I was listening to a news feed, and I heard over the news feed this stock spiking up, moving higher, and I looked at it, and it was like $100 a share, and it had just spiked up from it's $80 a share, and there was some news chatter that it was related to a possible takeover or buyout, and I jumped into it. I just impulsively pressed the buy button, and it ended up just dropping right back to $80, and I lost $25,000, and it happened so fast. And just like that, I was down $30,000, which was giving back the last 3 months of profit. And it was like, wow. In 5 minutes, I just gave back 3 months of work. How do I even how do I even mentally recover from that? I mean, this just feels so devastating. And, I stepped back, and I really encourage you guys, anytime you have a big loss, the first thing you need to do is shut down your computer and walk away from the computer. Because if I had walked away on that day down $5,000, as disappointing as being down $5,000 is, it can be a whole lot worse. So first of all, shut it down and walk away and get away from the computer. You can't just sit there, and watch the market and think that you're going to have the ability not to jump in, because it's just not realistic. So you got to shut it down, walk away. Come back once the market's closed and review your trades. And that's what I ended up doing. So I came back and I reviewed the trade. I was like, so what happened? And that's when I started to develop that sense of awareness of what my triggers are, that turn a bad day into a terrible day, or potentially could be a career-ending day for some traders. And so what I realized was that, first of all, on that day, I was red on 2 other stocks. And so basically everything else I had traded, I was red on. So I was like, wrong. So I was starting to get a little frustrated about being wrong on multiple trades back to back. And then I was sort of still sitting around hoping maybe something would pop up that would miraculously give me an opportunity to get out of the hole, which is sort of like a fear of missing out thing. It's I don't want to close the day red, so I'm going to sit here and I'm just going to wait for something, but I'm much more likely to jump on anything that moves because I'm sort of in a place of desperation, right? And so, of course, I ended up hearing a stock on the news feed popping up, and it was popping up, and I impulsively jumped in before I really thought about my risk management. And just like that, it was like I was in, and then it started dropping, and now I just had to work with the position. So what I ended up realizing was there's a certain couple of things that can trigger me, or sort of are triggers for me to become more impulsive, more aggressive, and not in a good way. And the first one is if I've had usually more than 3 red trades in a row. Back-to-back losses, 2 back-to-back losses, okay, that's fine. That sometimes happens. A third back-to-back loss, now, you're just kind of getting frustrated by the market. You're just getting slapped around a little bit, and it's just not working. So 3 red trades in a row, that's time to step back, because now I'm starting to try to swing harder and harder at each trade that comes up, because you start to feel like you got to make up for those 3 losses, and it's just compensating for it. It's not good. So the new rule I put in place, which was a result of this process of self-awareness, was that if I have 3 consecutive losses, at that point I shut down the computer and walk away, because if I keep trading beyond that, there's a high likelihood that I'm going to get impulsive, aggressive, and in a bad way. The second was, at that point, I called my broker and said, hey, I need you guys to put a max loss on my account. If I'm down, and I think I set it at $5,000, I think I set it at $5,000. I don't remember, but I think it was 5. If I'm down more than $5,000, disable my account and don't let me take any new positions until the next day. That way, if I have a day where I am down $5,000, $8,000, which is a place that is definitely going to make me feel emotional, frustrated, and angry, I simply can't trade. So I can't take out that emotion and frustration on the market. I have no choice but to step away. And those were really the 2 big ones, because I was like, okay, I've got a ship that's, and let's say the strategy is my ship. My ship is staying afloat, but every now and then I take on a lot of water in the form of losses, and that just cuts down the profit margin, and it just feels devastating. Now I'm gonna have to spend the next 3 months just digging myself out of the hole. But as I recovered from that loss with these new rules in place, I felt like I had become a more disciplined trader. I started getting really focused on trying to have consecutive green days, even if they were small. And one of the things that I reminded myself of is that if starting today, I can make $200 a day, for instance, I'm going to be making $50,000 a year, and all the losses of the past, they're water under the bridge. I will eventually make back all of them. I don't need to be daily looking at, my total P&L and see that I'm still down 28,000 and, working my way back to break even. I'm putting that 100% aside, and I'm just going to focus on making my $200 a day. Because if I can do that and I can master it and I can prove that I'm better than having these big losses, then, from that point forward, life is good and I've got it. So it did take me months to recover from that loss. And at that time, my account, since August, had grown from like $25,000, right at the cusp of the PDT rule, which in those days I didn't know there were brokers that you can use to trade with accounts as small as $500. So I just didn't even know that was an option. But in any case, I had grown the account from $25,000 in September up to right around $50,000 or $56,000. Took the $30,000 loss and was right back to like $26,000 in the account. I mean, it was like knocked it right back down. So I was like, okay, I'm starting over. And I was scared because I, was like, whoa, maybe, how many times can this keep happening before I'm done? What if it had been a $40,000 loss and I was $10,000 below the PDT level? And, I have to be able to take out profit for cost of living. I can't just keep taking 3 steps forward and then one massive step back to square one. So I was scared. And I think that fear of feeling up against the wall made me even more focused on being disciplined. And so one of the other things I did is I stopped watching the news and listening to the news while I was trading, because I found that was making me just take weird trades on high price stocks, which is not even what I was typically making money on. That was like gambling, essentially. And I was like, I gotta stop doing that. So I cut that stuff out. And let's see, what else did I do? Oh, I started doing something kind of funny at, I think it was 10:30 each day. I would unplug my laptop and I'd go put it in the car. And I was like, I'm done. I'm not looking at the market. I don't care if a stock runs up 400% this afternoon. I'm not going to know about it till tomorrow. I'm going to trade during the time of day that I have peak performance, and that's it. And then the next thing I did is I was like, I'm going to stop comparing myself to other people, because I think we all can fall into that habit, and you guys may have it with me. You may have it with other traders where you're like, oh shoot, Ross made $10,000 today. I only made $100. This is embarrassing. And you know what? You lose sight of the fact that $100 for you is great. That's $100 more than you had 2 hours ago. If your daily goal is $200 and you only made $100, okay, so you're a little below the daily goal, but every day you're finishing in the green, you are a hero. You are part of the 10% who have figured it out, and you don't want to beat yourself up for that. Because then what you could end up doing is being like unsatisfied with the $100 and then taking trade number 3 or number 4 and losing 200, and now you're in the red. And now you're part of the 90%, right? And that lose money. And it's because you gave into emotion. So that's kind of the thing that I started to think about. I was like, man, at the end of the day, you're going to be sitting here by yourself. And at that point, I was like newly divorced, and I was just like, this is... I part of the reason that I got divorced was because I had invested all of my time and energy into trying to learn how to day trade, and I wasn't making money, and we were falling into debt, and she wasn't happy with those choices I was making, and As, she probably would have been happier if I'd worked at a gas station and just had a regular job. And so, but I was determined, and I refused to give up. So, that determination ended up paying off. It just took a little longer than I thought. So, I was like, at the end of the day, you're sitting here, and it doesn't matter that, whoever out there made more money than you. They're not paying your bills. They don't have your cost of living. They're not you. You've got to focus on yourself. And $200 a day might not sound like a lot on a day where I make 20 grand, but $200 a day is $50,000 a year. That's 2 times the average household income here in Italy. That's right on par with the average household income in the United States. And if you're doing that consistently, with 1 hour a day, you of course have room to freelance, to build a business, to do other things in the rest of your day. And, that's kind of what I ended up doing with Warrior Trading. So, you've got so much opportunity when you learn this skill that can give you an income in just a couple hours a day. I mean, you really have an incredible, you can have an incredible life in front of you. So let's talk about the 2 phases of learning to trade. 2 phases: strategy development, and then live trading a proven strategy. Strategy development. How do you develop a strategy? Well, here's the kind of funny thing about the market. There's really only a handful of ways to profitably trade the market. I mean, on the one hand, you could say that for every trader, there's a strategy, because everyone's strategy is slightly different. And I suppose that's true. But on the other hand, you either focus on the long side or you focus on the short side. And you either focus on penny stocks and low price stocks, kind of the way I do, or you focus on blue chip stocks like Facebook, Netflix, Apple. And that's within the stock market. If you trade futures or you trade Forex, obviously there's going to be strategies within those securities. But in terms of day trading stocks, there's really only a handful of strategies. So there's sort of 2 ways you can go about learning to trade. Number 1 is you try to reinvent the wheel, which is, you start from nothing, no knowledge of the market, no knowledge of, really anything as it comes to trading strategies, and you just start testing out different things. You watch some YouTube videos, you kind of just play around, see what works, and that's essentially what I did. And it ended up taking me more than 2 years before I was consistently profitable. All right, so 2 years to become consistently profitable. And when I finally developed a strategy, well, it was kind of like getting lost in Italy. I drove around in circles for 4 hours only to end up, oh, this is where I was trying to get to, and this is where everyone is. There was a shortcut. I just didn't know about it. Because we're all trying to get to the same place, profitably trading a proven strategy. And again, so there's deviations in strategies. Some are going to be harder than others. Some are going to be easier than others. I've tried to make mine as easy as possible, and that was mostly because, I had to teach it myself, learn it myself, and I've tried to make it easy for my students who are at the beginning of their learning curve as well. So that's why we trade stocks and not options, and try not to get into complex stuff. But in any case, I took that long path. And so during those 2 years of trading, what I was essentially doing was creating my own historical data set. And so in that month of August, when I had a big loss, first week of the month of August, and I was below the PDT level, and so I ended up having to go back and sit for a while just reviewing my trades, because I couldn't trade, so I was like, might as well just review my trades. And because I've been trading for a couple years, I had a whole lot of trading data, and I was able to sort the trades from biggest winner to biggest loser, and that's when I discovered, for me, the secret, which was that the stocks I made the most money on were the ones that were up more than 20 to 30% on the day. And it might not sound like a lot, but once I focused in on those stocks, that was me starting to get pointed in the right direction. And from there, I just continued to refine on, which price range I did the best on, and, get tighter and tighter until I had a profitable strategy. But it took 2 years of active trading and losing money, developing all that historical data before I had something that I could go through and really discover and find a strategy with it. So strategy development is where the 90% traders who fail drop off. They drop off during strategy development, not necessarily because they go bankrupt, but they give up. They simply can't afford to keep, messing around in the market, not making money. They can't justify spending their time, doing this every day if it's not working. I mean, you can justify it for a period of time, but eventually, you're just like, I can't justify this anymore. And so they drop off. And of course, some will have a big loss like what I had that knocks them below, account minimums, and they're just like, all right, that's it. And they can't mentally recover. Hey, sorry, my battery died. So anyways, we were talking about the two phases of trading: strategy development and then live trading a proven strategy. So live trading a proven strategy, generally you would think, okay, this is the easy part. And it is, day trading every single day, that's the fun part, making money consistently, and it's all about averages. Obviously even the best traders will have red days, but as long as, you're averaging green, then at the end of the year, you're profitable. The challenge during phase 2, live trading a proven strategy, comes with the fact that there will inevitably be a time where you have a much larger loss than you had accounted for or had planned for. And it could be any number of factors that lead to or result in that happening, but it's something that can happen. So what's really going to define you is how you react or respond to those big red days. For me, what I've discovered is ultimately the biggest challenge is maintaining emotional composure, not allowing myself to get impulsive, aggressive, overly aggressive at the wrong time. So these are a couple of tips that have helped me get better at maintaining emotional composure. The first is exercise. And let's think about this for a second. So exercise for me, in the traditional sense of like going to the gym, is not something I enjoy doing. It's not a lot of fun. I don't look forward to it. It's something that I only do really because I believe that it helps me with my discipline as a trader. So for me, because going to the gym is not fun, what I'm forcing myself to do is experience discomfort and just sit through it. That is my way of exercising that muscle of self-control. I'm forcing myself to do something I don't really want to do. Just like when I have just taken a $5,000 loss, and my instinct, which is our natural instincts as human beings, cause us to lose money as traders. FYI. We are not built to be successful traders, otherwise everyone would be successful. We have to override our natural instincts in order to find consistent profitability. So, just like that, I have to fight that urge to double down and go super aggressive on the next trade to try to compensate for a loss. I've got to force myself to go through my exercise regimen. So number one, exercise. Number two, and I wouldn't have expected this in the world of finance and day trading. And of course, there's some traders out there making millions of dollars a year trading. Meditation. Now, the benefit of meditation for me is that forcing myself to sit and think about nothing but my breathing is very uncomfortable. I don't enjoy doing that. It's not fun. I force myself to do it as a means of exercising that muscle of self-control. And the third, and this is an interesting one that I've just sort of started applying, is acupuncture. Again, acupuncture, having little needles stuck into your arms and back and face and legs and everything, to me, this is just personal for me, is not enjoyable. I don't enjoy the sensation. Now, at the end of the session, I feel good, and I feel, like I'm glad it's over. Relieved, really. And so for me, it's another one of those things where my acupuncturist, he puts the needles in, and then he leaves the room, sometimes for 20 to 30 minutes. And so there was one time where he put them in, and a couple of them were in a little deep, or they were like on a nerve, and it was like excruciating. And I was laying there, and I was like, what if he doesn't come back? What did he do? Did he go get a sandwich? Did he go move his car? Did he go run into someone, have a little conversation? Where the hell is he? What's going on here? I need some help. And I was just getting more and more annoyed as I'm laying there. And I was like, can I even get these out myself? And as I move my arm, they all kind of adjust, and I'm like, oh God, I can't. And then I'm thinking, well, what if he forgot about me? What if he just disappears? And then what am I going to do? And then I said, you know what? Surrender. Just give up. Surrender to the flow, which is a quote from a song, but probably a lot of people have said it as well. And literally, like 5 seconds after I said surrender, the door opens and he comes in. And I was like, God damn it. But that was the lesson. And so the discomfort that I feel in trading pales in comparison to that. Those of you who have had tattoos, you get it as well. You sit through it, you grin and bear, and for most of us, I don't think it's a lot of fun, but you do it, you get through it, and at the end of it, if you do it enough, you start to develop a system of just going with it, just letting it happen, and that's exactly what you need in order to be a successful trader, because losses will happen. You will have days where you take big losses. As much as we try to avoid them, it's like being a boxer and trying to not get punched, not get hit in the face. Good luck trying. It's going to happen sooner or later, and you got to know how to take a hit. And what defines you as a trader and as a boxer is how you respond to that, how you're able to take it and not get rattled, not get thrown off your game. I had a real challenge myself during this year, where I was working on this $1 million goal to take the $583 account, less than $600, and turn it into $1 million of profit, which is crazy. No one's ever done that before. And on the day that I was at $992,000 and I was up $2,500 on the day, I said to myself, this is going to be the day. This is the day that I'm going to cross the $1 million mark. And it's like I made it. I was like, it has to be today. And so this is personal, but that day was the anniversary of the day that my father passed away. And I think I wanted to just do this sort of in his memory, and maybe help replace a very sad memory with a happy memory. And I certainly should have known that all of the emotions around that day would not allow me to be in my best state of mind as a trader. And yet, just like when I got off the airplane after traveling for 20 20 hours or whatever it was, and I sat down to trade. I overestimated that I was fine, and I've got this. And I was up $2,000, saw a trade that looked like a pretty easy, win, pretty easy setup, jumped in. It didn't work out right away. I was in the red, down quite a bit, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to buy more shares. I rarely do that. I almost never do that. I say, yeah, I'm just going to buy more shares. Bought more shares. It drops more. Comes back up. I buy even more shares, and now I'm in this stock with one of the biggest positions I've taken in a couple of years. And it ends up flushing down and just stopping me out with a $28,000 loss. Second worst day of my career. And I had to spend the next 6 weeks, I continued, the next day and the next week I lost a little bit more money, another like 10 or 15,000. The market ended up kind of just being crappy, and I ended up spending the next like 6 weeks or almost 2 months getting myself back up to that $1 million level. And that was just another big reminder from the market that it doesn't matter what day it is, it doesn't matter how much you want to be green today. The market, it's either going to give you opportunities or it won't. And you have to trade the market you are in right now, today, not the market that you want to be in. Would I love today, Friday, to make $40,000, $50,000 and have it be the best day of my trading career? You better believe it. Of course I would. Who wouldn't? But I can't be swinging for the fences like that's going to happen, or like that's a realistic expectation. Because when you start doing that, well, you're starting to do something more like gamble, and that's not what leads to long-term success. So your two phases of trading: strategy development, that took me 2 years, cost me my marriage, cost me over $100,000 in losses and cost of living, and I almost gave up. I was really close to giving up before I finally turned the corner. And then phase 2 is live trading a proven strategy. And even during phase 2, there have been times where I've been close to the edge of just being like, oh man, I can't even, how am I ever gonna, face the YouTube audience with my $30,000 red day? This is humiliating, and this is just so frustrating. The market's terrible. But I step back, get focused. I do the things I know help me: exercise, meditation, and acupuncture. I looked like a porcupine at the end of my $30,000 red day. It was just like, give me every needle you've got. But it's part of the life. And then of course the benefit is that I became a self-made millionaire thanks to day trading. That here I am in Italy, one of the most beautiful countries and places of the country, probably, and I'm going to trade today for about an hour. I might make a couple $1,000s. I might lose money, but this career has allowed me to be able to pretty much live life on my own terms. Yesterday was the 4th of July, and I came into the market to be a day trader because I wanted independence. I did not want to ever have a 9-to-5 job again, and it's now been more than 10 years since I had a 9-to-5 job, and I'm not looking back. I'm just going to keep growing as a trader, keep getting better, and try to keep helping you guys who are at the very beginning of your journey get through strategy development as quickly and as painlessly as possible. And that's why we've created all the classes that we have at Warrior Trading. The Warrior Starter class, the Warrior Pro course. It's all about equipping you with the tools to become a successful trader. It's putting the templates for my strategies right in front of you so you can hit the ground running. Because like I said, pretty much all traders fall into one of a couple of different camps of trading strategies. And it's like climbing Mount Everest. You got a couple different routes to get up there, but ultimately we're all trying to get to the same place, which is to be a profitable trader. And what's this guy doing? Oh, I see what he's doing. Got ourselves a little bit of a bus situation. All right. So, a big part of getting through strategy development is finding the right guide, finding the right teacher who inspires you, who gets you excited about what you're doing, to help you find the path up to the top. So leave some comments below, leave me some questions, I'll come through and answer them. We'll get this video uploaded as quick as we can, but might not be uploaded for a couple weeks. Might not be till I get back, I don't know. We'll see what the upload speeds are like here. All right, everyone. Thanks for hanging out with me on this episode of Driving with Ross, and I will see you guys all soon. Bye. Oh hey, I didn't see you there. Well, I was just working on the dream board for my next home run trade. Hopefully it comes soon. Until then, make sure you subscribe to get email alerts anytime I go live or upload new videos. Until then, happy surfing.